My name is Lucian Carter, 32 years old, a successful architect despite my humble beginnings. Every year, I dread the annual Christmas invitation from my family, but this time was different. The phone rang, and my mother's voice came through cold as ice. "Don't come for Christmas," she said softly. "We'll act like we don't know you," my sister added. I didn't argue. I just accepted quietly, already forming a different plan in my mind. I never expected that one old photograph would change everything. Before I tell you about the Christmas party that turned my family upside down, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. I grew up in a small town called Millfield, about 2 hours outside of Boston. My mother Victoria was always obsessed with status and appearances. She came from a middle-class family, but had aspirations for something greater. When she married my father Robert, she saw it as her ticket to social advancement. My father owned a moderately successful insurance agency, and while we were comfortable, we were far from the elite circles my mother desperately wanted to join. From an early age, I showed a talent for design and drawing. I would spend hours sketching buildings, reimagining spaces, and creating elaborate structures with whatever materials I could find. My bedroom walls were covered with my designs and drawings of famous architectural wonders. When I was 12, my art teacher entered one of my building designs in a regional competition, and I won first place. I was ecstatic running home with my certificate and small trophy. "That's nice, Lucian," my mother said dismissively, barely looking up from her social committee paperwork. "But art doesn't pay the bills. You should focus more on your math and science if you want to be successful." My father gave me a quick pat on the back, but remained silent, as he always did when my mother made such pronouncements. That became the pattern of my childhood. My achievements in design and art were treated as cute hobbies at best, distractions at worst. My sister Rebecca, 2 years older than me, was my mother's favorite. She excelled in the areas my mother valued. She was popular, conventionally successful in school, and shared my mother's social aspirations. While I dreamed of buildings and spaces, Rebecca dreamed of country clubs and social connections. She wasn't necessarily mean to me growing up, but there was always a competitive edge to our relationship, one that grew sharper as we got older. When I announced during my senior year of high school that I wanted to attend architecture school in Boston, my mother was appalled. "Architecture? That's not a reliable career path, Lucian. You should go into business or law like your cousins," she argued. "Besides, those artsy types never make any real money." "Victoria," my father interjected quietly, "the boy has a talent. Maybe we should." "Robert, please," my mother cut him off. "We're discussing Lucian's future, not some fantasy." Despite their disapproval, I applied and was accepted to a prestigious architecture program with a partial scholarship. I took out loans for the rest and moved to Boston against my family's wishes. Those early years were tough, working part-time jobs while carrying a full course load, living in a tiny apartment with 3 roommates, eating ramen noodles more often than not. But I was happy, truly happy for the first time in my life, because I was pursuing what I loved. Meanwhile, Rebecca followed the prescribed path. She went to a respectable state university, got a business degree, and returned to Millfield to work at a local bank. She attended all the right local social events, joined the committees my mother valued, and dated men from good families. On the surface, she was living the life my parents, particularly my mother, had envisioned. After graduation, I was fortunate to land a position at Richards & Associates, a well-respected architecture firm in Boston. I started at the bottom, but I worked incredibly hard. While my colleagues went out for drinks after work, I stayed late perfecting my designs. While they took vacations, I took additional certification courses. Slowly but steadily, I built my reputation and climbed the ranks. Every achievement was met with the same response from my family. When I called to share that one of my designs had been selected for a small community center. "That's nice, Lucian, but when are you going to get a real job with security?" When I was promoted to junior architect, I suppose that's better than being an assistant. But Rebecca just joined the board of the Millfield Heritage Foundation. When I bought my first condo in that neighborhood, well, I guess it's better than renting. The annual Christmas gathering at my parents' home became increasingly tense as the years passed. As my career grew more successful, My mother seemed more determined to minimize it. She would introduce me to their friends as my son, who draws buildings, never as an architect. Rebecca would chime in with comments like, "Lucian's always been the creative one in the family," with a tone that made creative sound like a polite term for impractical. My father occasionally showed interest in my work, asking questions when my mother wasn't around, but he never defended me in her presence. Once he visited me in Boston alone, and seemed genuinely impressed by my office and the projects I was working on. "You've done well, son," he said quietly, as we walked back to my condo. "I wish your mother could see that." But he never made that wish a reality by standing up to her. 3 months ago, Thomas Richards, the founding partner of the firm, called me into his office. I worried I had made some mistake on the downtown revitalization project I was leading. "Lucian," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you've become one of our most valuable assets. Your design for the Hamilton Cultural Center has been praised by everyone, including the clients. I'd like to offer you a position as a senior architect with the potential for partnership track in the next few years." I was stunned. This was a major promotion that came with significantly more responsibility, creative control, and yes, the kind of money that even my mother couldn't dismiss. For once I thought I might be able to share news that would make her proud. Around the same time, I met Mia Rodriguez at a gallery opening featuring her photography. She was capturing architectural elements of Boston in a way that made me see my own city with fresh eyes. We talked all evening, and by the end of the night, I knew she was special. Mia came from a working-class family in Arizona, had put herself through photography school, and was now making a name for herself with her unique perspective and talent. Over the next 6 months, our relationship blossomed. Mia was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: talented, kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in my work. She understood the passion that drove me because she felt the same about her photography. For the first time, I was in a relationship that felt like a true partnership. As Christmas approached this year, I made a decision. I would bring Mia to meet my family, and I would share my good news about the promotion. Maybe, just maybe, they would finally see that I had built something valuable and meaningful, even if it wasn't the path they would have chosen for me. The call came exactly 1 week before Christmas. I was in my office finishing up some details on a new project when my phone lit up with my mother's name. I took a deep breath before answering, mentally preparing for the usual interrogation about my life choices. "Hello, Mother," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral and positive. "Lucian," she replied, her voice carrying that familiar, crisp, controlled quality. "I'm calling about Christmas." "Yes, Mia and I are looking forward to it," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "I have some exciting news to share with everyone, and I can't wait for you to meet her." There was a long pause, and then my mother cleared her throat. "About that, Lucian. Your father and I have been discussing the arrangements, and we think it would be best if you didn't come this year." The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat back in my chair momentarily, unable to speak. "Lucian, are you there?" my mother prompted. "Yes," I managed. "I'm here." "What do you mean? You think it would be best if I didn't come?" "It's Christmas, Mother. Family Christmas. This year is different." She continued, her voice taking on that smooth, practiced tone she used when delivering unpleasant news at her social functions. "Rebecca's new boyfriend, James Spencer, will be joining us. His family is quite prominent in Boston circles, and we're eager to make a good impression. The gathering will include several of his family friends as well." "And what does that have to do with me not coming?" I asked, though a sinking feeling in my stomach told me I already knew the answer. "Don't be difficult, Lucian. You know you've always been different. Your choices, your career, they're not what these people would understand. We simply think it would be more comfortable for everyone if you pretend I don't exist." I finished for her, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. I heard a rustling sound, and then another voice came on the line. "Lucian, it's Rebecca. Look, this is really important for me. James Island. He's special. His family knows everyone who matters in Boston. This could be a real opportunity for all of us, but you know how you can be sometimes. Your artsy job, your unconventional views, it's just not the right fit for this gathering." "My artsy job?" is a senior architect position at one of the most respected firms in the city. I said, my voice tight. And what do you mean by my unconventional views? That I believe in pursuing what I'm passionate about. Don't come for Christmas, my mother repeated, having apparently taken the phone back from Rebecca. We'll act like we don't know you, my sister added in the background. The casual cruelty of it stunned me into silence. My own family was willing to erase me for the sake of impressing some boyfriend's social connections. Fine, I said finally, not trusting myself to say more without my voice breaking. Have a wonderful Christmas. I ended the call and sat motionless in my chair, staring at the Boston skyline through my office window. Buildings I had admired since childhood, some of which now bore the small imprint of my own design contributions. I had built a life here. A good life, despite my family's lack of support. And now they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, because I might embarrass them in front of their important new connections. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Finished my shoot early. Dinner tonight. I texted back a quick, yes, need to talk to you about something. Then I packed up my things and left the office, nodding absently to colleagues as I made my way out. That evening, as Mia and I sat in my favorite Italian restaurant, I told her what had happened. Her eyes widened in disbelief as I recounted the conversation. They said what she asked, setting down her fork. They actually told you not to come to Christmas because of some boyfriend's family. I nodded, pushing my pasta around my plate without much appetite. Apparently I'm not the right fit for their gathering this year. That's horrible, Lucian Mia said, reaching across the table to take my hand. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? What can I do? They've made it clear where I stand. I tried to smile, but it felt brittle. Looks like we're having Christmas in Boston this year. Their loss, Mia said, firmly squeezing my hand. We'll have our own Christmas. It will be beautiful and warm and filled with people who actually appreciate you. Later that evening, after Mia left, I called my best friend Marcus. He had known me since architecture school and understood my complicated family dynamics better than most. They did what he exploded after I explained the situation. Man, that's cold, even by your mother's standards. Yeah, well, apparently Rebecca's new boyfriend is some big shot from an important Boston family, and they don't want the embarrassing architect's son ruining their social climbing. That's ridiculous. You're one of the most successful young architects in the city. Anyone with half a brain would be proud to call you their son, Marcus said loyally. Look, forget them. Come to my place for Christmas. My mom always makes enough food for an army anyway, and she loves you. I thanked him for the offer and said I'd think about it. After hanging up, I tried to distract myself with work, but my mind kept replaying the conversation with my mother and sister. The casual way they had dismissed me, as if my existence was an inconvenience to be managed. After all these years of trying to earn their approval, of hoping they might eventually see value in the life I had built, they had made it crystal clear that I would never be enough. That night I barely slept. I tossed and turned, remembering all the times my achievements had been minimized, all the times I had swallowed my hurt at family gatherings, all the times I had defended my parents and sister to friends who questioned why I still tried so hard to maintain a relationship with them. As dawn broke over Boston, I stood at my window watching the city come to life. Something had changed inside me. The hurt was still there, but alongside it was something new, a sense of clarity, of finality. I had spent too many years seeking approval from people who would never give it. It was time to stop trying. And then, as I watched the morning light glint off the glass towers of the financial district, a memory surfaced. Spencer. James Spencer. Why did that name sound familiar? Spencer. The name triggered something in the back of my mind, a memory from years ago that I couldn't quite grasp. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down at my kitchen counter, trying to place it. And then it hit me. The summer when I was 16, desperate to earn money for architecture books and supplies my parents refused to buy. I had taken a job at a large estate in Wellesley, an affluent suburb outside Boston. The Spencers. They needed extra help with landscaping and maintenance over the summer, and I had been hired through a local agency. The estate belonged to Harold Spencer, a banking executive, and his wife Eleanor. They had a son close to my age, James, a privileged, arrogant teenager who viewed the staff with barely concealed disdain. The memory of him came flooding back with surprising clarity. James Spencer had been a nightmare to work around. He treated the household staff like they were beneath his notice, leaving deliberate messes for them to clean up, speaking to them rudely, if he acknowledged them at all. I remembered his perfectly pressed polo shirts, his carefully styled hair, his casual entitlement. One particular incident stood out in my memory. I had been working in the garden near the pool house when James and some of his friends emerged, loudly discussing their plans for a party that weekend. One of them bumped into me, causing me to drop the pruning shears I was holding. "Watch where you're standing," James had snapped. "The help should know better than to get in the way." His friends had laughed, and I had apologized reflexively, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. 2 days later, Mrs. Spencer's diamond tennis bracelet went missing. James immediately suggested it might have been taken by one of the new staff, meaning me. I was pulled into Mr. Spencer's study and questioned my belongings, searched my character, scrutinized. The bracelet was found the next day in Mrs. Spencer's bathroom drawer, where she had absent-mindedly left it after a shower. Mr. Spencer apologized to me gruffly, but James never did. In fact, he seemed disappointed that he couldn't get me fired. Could this be the same? James Spencer, Rebecca's new boyfriend? The one whose family connections were so important that my own family was willing to disown me for Christmas? I opened my laptop and searched for James Spencer Boston Banking. Several results appeared, and I clicked on a LinkedIn profile. The photo showed a man in his mid-30s, with the same sharp features I remembered, though now more mature. Executive Vice President at First Atlantic Investment Partners, Harvard Business School. The pieces fell into place. This was indeed the same James Spencer, now all grown up, and apparently dating my sister. The irony was almost too perfect, my status-obsessed family falling over themselves to impress someone who had once treated me like dirt beneath his expensive shoes. I dug deeper, reading articles about James's career, scanning through social media profiles. The picture that emerged was of a man who had carefully crafted an image of himself as a self-made success, someone who had worked his way up through determination and grit. In interviews, he talked about understanding the value of hard work and appreciating people from all walks of life. It was such a stark contrast to the entitled teenager I had known that I almost wondered if I was mistaken. But then I found a family photo from a charity gala James with his parents, Harold and Eleanor Spencer. They were older now, but unmistakably, the same people who had owned the estate where I had worked that summer. I sat back, unsure what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to call my sister immediately and tell her exactly who her precious boyfriend really was. Another part wanted to contact my mother and explain that the family they were so eager to impress had once employed me as the help. The petty satisfaction those actions might bring was tempting. But as I thought about it more, I realized that direct confrontation would only lead to denials, defensiveness, and even more family drama. My words would be dismissed, as they always had been. No, if I wanted to make a point, I would need to be more subtle. I went to my closet and dug through some old boxes until I found what I was looking for, a small photo album from my teenage years. There, among pictures of high school friends and early architectural sketches, was a group photo of the summer staff at the Spencer estate. I was standing at the edge of the group, skinny and serious in the landscaping company's uniform. In the background, partially blurred, but still recognizable, was the Spencer family on their patio, with a teenage James lounging in a chair while a maid served drinks. I looked at the photo for a long time, memories of that summer washing over me. The early mornings, the physical labor, the dismissive treatment from James and his friends, but also the pride I had felt, earning my own money, the skills I had, learned the first steps toward independence. This photo represented the beginning of my journey away from my family's expectations and toward building my own life. It was a small but significant piece of my history, one that connected directly to the present situation in a way that felt almost like destiny. An idea began to form in my mind. Not a plan for revenge or humiliation, but something more meaningful, more true to who I had become. I would create a beautiful photo book chronicling my journey as an architect, from those early sketches to my current projects. A visual story of the path I had chosen, despite my family's disapproval, culminating in my recent promotion. And I would include among the early photos that illustrated my beginnings That staff picture from the Spencer estate. Not highlighted or explained, just there as one element of my history. A truth, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Over the next few days, I threw myself into creating this album. Mia helped me select the best photographs of my buildings and designs, arranging them chronologically to show my development as an architect. We included photos of me at construction sites in my office receiving awards. I wrote brief factual captions explaining each project and its significance. On the page dedicated to my early inspirations and work experiences, I placed the Spencer Estate staff photo with a simple caption, "Summer job age 16. Learning the value of hard work and perseverance." When the album was complete, I wrapped it carefully in silver paper and attached a card that read, "To my family. Though I cannot be with you this Christmas, I wanted to share my journey and my recent news. I've been promoted to senior architect with partnership potential. I am proud of the path I've taken and the life I've built. Wishing you all a wonderful holiday. Love, Lucian." I showed the finished package to Mia, who examined it with a thoughtful expression. "This is perfect," she said finally. "It's not about revenge or making anyone look bad. It's about your truth, your story. If they choose to really see it, that's up to them." "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" I asked her. She took my hand. "I think you're responding to hurt with dignity rather than malice. That says everything about who you are, Lucian." I nodded, feeling more certain of my decision. This wasn't about James Spencer or even about my family's rejection. It was about standing in my truth and refusing to be erased. Whatever happened next would be up to them. Christmas Eve arrived with a light snowfall that blanketed Boston in white. Mia and I had spent the previous day decorating my condo with a small tree lights and greenery. The space felt warm and festive, completely different from the formal, picture-perfect Christmas decorations my mother always insisted on. "What time is everyone coming over?" Mia asked, as she arranged a platter of cookies she had baked. "Around 7, I replied. "Marcus is bringing wine. Alyssa and David are handling appetizers, and Jen said she's bringing her famous eggnog." We had decided to host a small gathering of close friends for Christmas Eve, people who had become my chosen family over the years. None of them had been able to travel home for the holidays for various reasons, so we were creating our own celebration. My phone rang, and I was surprised to see my father's name on the screen. I hesitated before answering. "Hello." "Lucian," my father's voice sounded strained. "I wanted to. Well, I wanted to say, Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Dad," I replied, unsure where this was going. "About the gathering tomorrow. Your mother can be. She gets very caught up in appearances sometimes." "Dad, are you calling to apologize for her telling me not to come to Christmas? Because if so, I'd rather hear it from her." He sighed. "You know she won't do that. She believes she's doing what's best for the family, for Rebecca's relationship with James." "And what do you believe, Dad?" I challenged. "Do you also think it's best to pretend your son doesn't exist, to impress some rich family?" "Of course not," he said quietly. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished, Lucian. I always have been, even if I haven't said it enough." "Then why go along with this?" I asked. "Why not stand up for me just once?" There was a long pause. "It's complicated, son. Your mother and I. Our dynamic has always been. Look, I just wanted you to know that I wish things were different." Wishing doesn't change anything, I said more sharply than I intended. Actions do. "I know," he admitted. "I've never been good at that part." After a few more minutes of awkward conversation, we said goodbye. I stood by the window afterward, watching the snow fall and thinking about my father's call. It was the closest he had ever come to acknowledging his failure to support me against my mother's disapproval, but it still wasn't enough. Words without action never were. Mia came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "Everything okay?" My dad called to wish me Merry Christmas and sort of apologize, but not really. "At least he called," she said softly. "That's something." I nodded, though. I wasn't sure how much it really meant. Later that afternoon, I scrolled through my social media feed and saw that Rebecca had posted several photos of the preparations for the Christmas gathering at my parents' house. The dining room was set with my mother's best china and crystal. The tree was perfectly decorated in the color scheme my mother had chosen for this year, and everyone was dressed impeccably for the pre-Christmas dinner. One photo showed Rebecca beaming next to a tall man in an expensive suit, James Spencer looking exactly as I remembered but older, more polished. The caption read, "Christmas Eve, with the most important people in my life." So blessed to have James Spencer joining our family traditions this year. The most important people in her life. Except her brother, who had been explicitly uninvited. I closed the app and looked at the silver-wrapped album sitting on my coffee table. I had been debating whether to actually send it or to let it go, move on and focus on building a life that didn't include my family's toxicity. "I'm going to deliver this," I said suddenly. Mia looked up from the novel she was reading. "Now on Christmas Eve." "Yes, I'll just drop it off. I won't even ring the bell." She studied my face. "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I nodded. "It's not about hurting anyone or causing a scene. It's about refusing to be erased, refusing to let them rewrite history without my voice in it." "Then I think you should do it," she said. "But I'm coming with you." An hour later, we were driving through the snowy streets toward Millfield. The album sat on the back seat, a silent testament to the life I had built despite my family's lack of faith in me. As we approached my parents' neighborhood, I could see houses lit up with Christmas lights, warm glows, emanating from windows where families were gathered together. I wondered what it would be like to have grown up in a home where acceptance wasn't conditional, where love didn't depend on conformity. We pulled up a block away from my parents' house. "I'll be right back," I told Mia, grabbing the package from the back seat. I walked the short distance to the familiar, colonial-style house where I had grown up. Through the large front windows, I could see the party in full swing, people in elegant attire, mingling in the living room, servers circulating with trays of hors d'oeuvres, my mother holding court near the fireplace. My father stood nearby, smiling mechanically at whatever was being said. I climbed the steps to the front porch and placed the package carefully against the door. I had addressed it to the Carter family in my neat architect's printing. For a moment, I stood there, snow falling around me, looking at the home that had never fully felt like mine. Then I turned and walked away, without looking back. When I returned to the car, Mia reached over and took my hand. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, surprised to find that I meant it. "I am." By the time we returned to Boston, our friends had begun arriving for our Christmas Eve gathering. Marcus was the first, bringing not only wine, but also a small gift for everyone. Alyssa and David arrived with an array of delicious appetizers. Jen, with her famous eggnog, and several other friends, followed with food, drinks, and holiday cheer. The contrast between this warm, genuine celebration and the formal, status-conscious gathering at my parents' house couldn't have been more stark. Here no one was performing or putting on airs. Everyone was accepted exactly as they were. The conversation flowed freely, punctuated by laughter and occasional good-natured debates. We shared stories, played games, and enjoyed each other's company without any underlying tension or judgment. Around midnight, as the party was winding down, my phone buzzed with a text from Sophia Lee, Rebecca's best friend since college. We had always gotten along well despite her close relationship with my sister. "Your Christmas gift arrived during dinner. Quite a stir when they opened it. Call me tomorrow if you want details." A moment later, another text came through. "For what it's worth, I think what they did was wrong. Merry Christmas, Lucian." I showed the text to Mia after everyone had left. "I'm not sure if I should be nervous or satisfied," I admitted. "Maybe both," she suggested. "Whatever happens, we'll handle it together." As we cleaned up the remnants of our celebration, I felt a strange mixture of emotions, anxiety about how my family had reacted to the album, sadness that it had come to this, but also a sense of peace that I had taken action rather than simply accepting erasure. "Let's not think about it anymore tonight," I said, finally turning off my phone. "It's Christmas Eve. Let's focus on us on this beautiful night, on the family we've chosen." Mia smiled and kissed me. "That sounds perfect." Later, as we lay in bed listening to the soft sounds of the city at night, Mia asked any regrets about sending the album. I thought about it for a moment. "No," I said finally. "Whatever happens, I know I stayed true to myself, And that's the best Christmas gift I could have given myself. I woke on Christmas morning to the gentle light filtering through my bedroom blinds and Mia's warm presence beside me. For a few peaceful moments, I simply enjoyed the quiet joy of the day, the snow-covered view of Boston outside my window, and the knowledge that I was exactly where I wanted to be with exactly who I wanted to be with. Then I turned on my phone. 27 missed calls, 14 voicemails, 39 text messages. Most from my mother, several from Rebecca, a few from my father, and even some from extended family members and family friends I rarely spoke to. Whatever had happened after my album was opened had clearly caused quite the commotion. "Wow," Mia said, looking over my shoulder at the notification screen. "Something definitely happened." I scrolled through the text messages first. From Sophia, sent around 1 in the morning, "Just got home from your parents' party. You won't believe what went down after they opened your album. James recognized you in that old photo instantly. His face went white. Then he started asking questions about you that your family couldn't answer because they know so little about your life. It got very uncomfortable very quickly." From Rebecca, a series of increasingly angry messages. "What the hell did you do? How dare you ruin my Christmas? James just broke up with me in front of everyone because apparently you used to work for his family. How could you do this to me? Call me back, right now." From my mother, "Lucian, we need to speak immediately. Your behavior is completely unacceptable. You've embarrassed this entire family with your childish stunt. Call me as soon as you get this." There were several more in the same vein. I switched to the voicemails, putting the phone on speaker so Mia could hear. My mother's voice tightly controlled but with an undercurrent of fury. "Lucian, I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but you need to call me back immediately. The situation here, island, difficult, and you owe us an explanation." Another from my mother, less controlled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? James broke things off with Rebecca because of you. She's devastated. On Christmas, how could you be so selfish?" Rebecca, clearly crying. "You ruined everything. James said he can't be with someone who lied about her own brother." As if I lied. "You're the one who decided to become some artsy weirdo instead of getting a real job, and now you've destroyed my relationship just because you're jealous of my life. I hate you." The next message surprised me. A woman's voice I recognized from years ago. "Lucian, this is Eleanor Spencer, James's mother. Your album caused quite a stir at your parents' gathering. I recognized you immediately, of course. You were such a hard worker that summer at our estate. I'd love to catch up and see more of your architectural work. Please call me when you have a chance." The final voicemail was from my father, sounding exhausted. "Lucian, I don't know what to say. Your mother and sister are. Well, they're not handling things well. That photo of you working at the Spencer's place. I had no idea. You never told me about that job. There's so much I don't know about your life, and that's on me. I should have paid more attention. I should have. A lot of things. Call me when you can." I set the phone down, trying to process everything I just heard. Mia looked at me with wide eyes. "That's a lot," she said. "How do you feel about all this?" I took a deep breath. Honestly, I don't know yet. I didn't send the album to break up Rebecca and James or to cause drama. I just wanted them to see me, to acknowledge my reality. "What are you going to do?" "First, I'm going to have Christmas morning with you," I said, pulling her close. "Then I'll decide how to handle my family." We spent the morning exchanging gifts, making a special breakfast, and video calling Mia's family in Arizona. It was the most peaceful, genuine Christmas morning I could remember having. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no performative cheer for the benefit of others, just simple, honest joy. Around noon, my phone rang again. It was Sophia. "Merry Christmas," I answered. "Merry Christmas, Lucian. Do you have a minute? I thought you might want more details about what happened last night." "I'm putting you on speaker," I told her. "Mia's here with me." "Hi, Mia," Sophia said. "So, Lucian, here's what went down. Your package arrived during dinner. Your mother set it aside at first, but your father insisted on opening it right away. Everyone gathered around as they unwrapped this beautiful photo album of your work. I have to say, your buildings are amazing." "Thanks," I said. "I worked hard on them." "It was obvious," Sophia continued. Anyway, everyone was passing the album around, and James seemed genuinely impressed by your work. Then he got to that page with the staff photo from his family's estate. He stopped, dead stared at it for like a full minute, then looked up and asked, "This is your brother, the architect. He worked on our estate when we were teenagers." Rebecca had no idea what he was talking about, of course. She tried to brush it off, said something like, "Oh, Lucian's always had odd jobs." But James wasn't letting it go. He kept asking questions about you, where you went to school, how long you'd been an architect, why you weren't at the gathering. And my family couldn't answer. I guessed. Exactly, Sophia confirmed. They barely knew anything about your actual life. It became painfully obvious that they had deliberately excluded you and had been minimizing your achievements for years. James got increasingly upset, especially when he realized you were the same person he had. Well, apparently not treated very well that summer. That's putting it mildly, I commented. Then Eleanor Mrs. Spencer recognized you too and started talking about how impressed she was by your work ethic back then. She asked why you weren't there, and your mother gave some vague excuse about you having other commitments. But James wasn't buying it. He looked right at Rebecca and asked, "Did you exclude your own brother from Christmas because of my family? Because you were ashamed of him?" Rebecca tried to deny it, but she's never been a good liar. James got up and said he couldn't be with someone who would deny their own family, especially someone as talented and hardworking as you apparently are. He said it spoke volumes about her character and values and his. Then he apologized to his parents for the scene and left. Rebecca ran upstairs crying. Your mother started trying to salvage the situation with the other guests, and it was just chaos. Wow. I said, unsure how else to respond. The ironic thing, Sophia added, is that most of the guests were more impressed by your album than anything else at that party. A few people asked for your contact information for potential projects. Your mother looked like she was swallowing lemons when that happened. After thanking Sophia for the update and wishing her a Merry Christmas, I sat in silence for a few moments, processing everything. "Are you okay?" Mia asked gently. "I think so," I said slowly. I didn't intend for James to break up with Rebecca. I just wanted them to see the truth, that I've built something valuable, something real, despite their lack of support. The fact that it all imploded says more about their choices than mine. My phone buzzed again, with a text from my mother. "Your sister is devastated. I hope you're satisfied with yourself. We need to discuss this situation in person. Your father and I expect you to come to the house tomorrow." The commanding tone, the lack of any acknowledgement of their role in the situation, the expectation that I would simply comply with their demands, nothing had changed. They still saw me as the problem, not their own actions. "What are you thinking?" Mia asked, reading over my shoulder. "I'm thinking that I'm not going to jump when they snap their fingers," I replied. "If they want to talk, they can come here to my home and have an actual conversation. No accusations, no commands, just honest communication for once." I texted my mother back, "I'm sorry Rebecca is upset, but I simply shared my truth. I didn't ask to be excluded from Christmas. If you want to talk, you're welcome to come to my condo in Boston tomorrow afternoon. Mia and I will be home after 2. The response was immediate. "This is not something to be discussed in front of strangers." Mia is not a stranger. She's my partner and an important part of my life, one you didn't bother to get to know. Those are my terms. There was no reply for several minutes, and then, "Fine. Your father and I will be there at 3. Rebecca may join us." I put the phone down and turned to Mia. "They're coming here tomorrow. Are you okay with that?" She nodded. "Of course. This is your home, your terms. It's about time they respected that." I smiled, feeling a strange sense of calm. Whatever happened tomorrow, I would face it on my own ground, with my strongest supporter by my side. For the first time, I would be meeting my family as an equal, not as the perpetually disappointing son, trying to earn their approval. "Merry Christmas, Mia," I said, pulling her close. "Thank you for being here through all of this." "There's nowhere else I'd rather be," she replied. "And for what it's worth, I think you've handled this with incredible grace." For the rest of Christmas Day, we refused to let the pending confrontation cast a shadow over our holiday. We video called with friends, watched classic Christmas movies, and enjoyed the peace of our home. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring, but today was ours to cherish. At precisely 3 o'clock the following day, my doorbell rang. Mia squeezed my hand reassuringly as I went to answer it. Standing on the other side were my mother, looking immaculately put together, as always, despite the circumstances. My father, his expression, a mix of discomfort and resignation, and Rebecca, her eyes red-rimmed, but her chin raised defiantly. "Please come in," I said, stepping aside to let them enter. My mother's eyes darted around my condo, taking in the modern furnishings, the floor-to-ceiling windows with their view of the Boston skyline, the framed architectural drawings and photographs on the walls. I could almost see her mental calculations as she reassessed the life I had built without her approval or assistance. "This is Mia," I said, introducing my girlfriend, who had come to stand beside me. "Mia, these are my parents, Victoria and Robert Carter, and my sister Rebecca." "It's nice to finally meet you," Mia said warmly, extending her hand. My mother took it briefly, my father gave a genuine, if awkward, handshake, and Rebecca simply nodded curtly. "Please have a seat." I gestured to the living room area. "Would anyone like something to drink? Water? Coffee? Tea?" "This isn't a social call, Lucian," my mother said stiffly, though she did sit down on the edge of the sofa. "We're here to discuss your behavior." "My behavior," I repeated, keeping my voice level as Mia and I sat down across from them. "I'm not sure what you mean." I sent a gift, showing my professional accomplishments and sharing my good news about my promotion. "You deliberately included that photo to cause problems between Rebecca and James," my mother accused. "Don't pretend it was innocent." "I included that photo because it's part of my story," I replied calmly. "That summer job was one of my first steps toward independence, toward building my own life, when it became clear that my path wouldn't have your support. It's a significant memory for me." "You could have warned me." Rebecca interjected, her voice bitter. "You could have told me you knew James, that you had some history with his family." "How could I?" I countered. "You never told me who you were dating until Mother called to uninvite me from Christmas. And even then, all I got was his name, and that his family was important to impress. You never asked about my life, or my past jobs, or my connections in Boston. None of you ever really asked." "That's not fair," my father started, but I held up a hand. "Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked me a meaningful question about my work, about my life, about what matters to me? You've spent years treating my career like some embarrassing hobby, my choices like failures, my achievements like flukes. And then you decided I wasn't even worth including in a family holiday because I might not impress your important guests." My mother's lips thinned. "We made a judgment call based on what we thought was best for the family." "For the family," I repeated incredulously. "Or for your social climbing, because those aren't the same thing." "You've always been difficult, Lucian," my mother said dismissively. "Always insisting on your own way, rejecting the practical paths we suggested. I built a successful career doing what I love." I interrupted, my calm beginning to fray. "I'm a senior architect on partnership track at one of the most respected firms in Boston. I design buildings that will stand for generations. I've created a life that makes me proud and happy, and none of that has ever been good enough for you. We just wanted security for you," my father offered weakly. "No, Dad. You wanted me to be someone I'm not. You wanted me to fit into the narrow definition of success that Mother recognizes. And when I refused, when I built something different but valuable, you let her treat me like a failure." Rebecca, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly burst out. "This isn't about your precious career, Lucian. This is about you deliberately sabotaging my relationship. James broke up with me because of you. James broke up with you because you were willing to pretend your brother doesn't exist to impress his family." I corrected her. "That's on you, not me." "You know what?" Rebecca's voice rose. "I've always been jealous of you. Even when we were kids, you were always so sure of what you wanted, so determined. Dad would look at your drawings with this pride he never showed when looking at my report cards. And now you've built this perfect life with your fancy job and your beautiful girlfriend and your amazing apartment, while I'm stuck in Millfield doing exactly what Mother wanted, and I'm still not happy." Her outburst left us all in stunned silence. It was possibly the most honest thing my sister had ever said to me. "Rebecca, I said gently, I never knew you felt that way. How could you? She asked, deflating slightly. We were never encouraged to talk about real feelings in our family, just appearances. My mother stood up abruptly. This is getting us nowhere. Lucian, the fact remains that your actions caused significant distress and embarrassment to this family. The least you could do is apologize. Before I could respond, Mia spoke up. With all due respect, Mrs. Carter, it seems to me that your actions caused the initial hurt. You excluded your son from a family holiday because you were ashamed of him, or at least ashamed of who you thought he was. From what I've seen, Lucian has built an impressive life based on talent, hard work, and integrity. Any family should be proud of that. My mother looked at Mia as if she'd grown a second head. Clearly, she wasn't used to being directly challenged. This is a family matter, she said coldly. You wouldn't understand. Mia is family to me, I stated firmly. And she understands more than you think. She sees me for who I actually am, not who she wishes I would be. Just then my phone rang. I glanced at it, surprised to see Eleanor Spencer on the screen. Excuse me, I should take this, I said, stepping into the kitchen. Hello, Mrs. Spencer. Lucian, dear, I hope I'm not interrupting your holiday. Eleanor's warm voice came through. I just wanted to follow up on my message from yesterday. I was so impressed by the album you sent your family. Your architectural work is stunning. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched by her enthusiasm. That means a lot. I've actually been thinking of renovating a small property we have downtown for a community arts center, and after seeing your work, I'd love to discuss the possibility of your firm handling the project. Would that be something you might be interested in? Absolutely, I replied. I'd be honored to discuss it. Wonderful. And Lucian, I also wanted to say, I remember how hard you worked that summer at our estate. James was. Well, he was a difficult teenager, and I know he didn't make things easy for the staff. I was glad to see you've done so well for yourself. I appreciate that, Mrs. Spencer. Please call me Eleanor. Now, one more thing before I let you go. I understand there was some tension at your family's gathering. I want you to know that James spoke very highly of your work and your accomplishments when he returned home. Whatever happened between him and your sister is between them, but your talent and work ethic impressed our entire family. After thanking her and arranging a meeting for the new year, I returned to the living room where an uncomfortable silence had settled. That was Eleanor Spencer, I said, resuming my seat beside Mia. She's interested in having my firm design a community arts center downtown. The look on my mother's face was indescribable, a mixture of shock, confusion, and the dawning realization that her understanding of social hierarchies and my place in them had been completely wrong. Mrs. Spencer wants to hire you, she asked faintly. Yes. Apparently she was impressed by my portfolio and remembers me as a hard worker from that summer job. My father cleared his throat. Lucian, I think we owe you an apology. I know I do. I should have supported you more over the years, should have stood up for you. I was proud of you, even when I didn't show it enough. Thank you, Dad, I said, genuinely moved by his words. That means a lot. My mother remained silent, her worldview visibly crumbling around her. Rebecca, surprisingly, was the next to speak. I'm sorry too, not just for Christmas, but for a lot of things. I've been competing with you for so long, I never stopped to really see what you were building, and it's really impressive, Lucian. Thank you, I said, reaching out to briefly squeeze her hand. For what it's worth, I think you could still build something that makes you happy, even if it's not what Mother envisioned. She nodded a thoughtful expression, replacing the anger that had been there earlier. My mother finally spoke, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. I don't understand. You always seemed so impractical. Architecture seemed like such an unstable choice. Maybe you didn't understand because you never really asked, I suggested gently. You had a vision of what success looked like, and when I chose a different path, you assumed it was the wrong one without ever really looking at what I was building. She didn't apologize, I hadn't really expected her to, but something in her expression had shifted as if she was seeing me clearly for the first time. I don't want us to be estranged, I continued. But I need you to respect my choices my career, and the people I love. I took Mia's hand. If you can do that, I'd like to try building a healthier relationship. If not, I'll need to keep my distance for my own well-being. My father nodded immediately. I want that too, son. A better relationship. Rebecca, after a moment's hesitation, nodded as well. Me too. And maybe you could help me figure out what I really want to do with my life, not just what's expected. My mother was the last to respond. I suppose she said finally, I have some reassessing to do. It wasn't perfect, and I harbored no illusions that one conversation would magically transform my family dynamics. But it was a beginning, a first step toward honesty and mutual respect that had been missing for far too long. As they prepared to leave, my father hugged me tightly, the first real hug we'd shared in years. Rebecca's hug was briefer but genuine. My mother offered her hand, which was her version of an olive branch. Your home is very nice, she said stiffly, and your work. It's quite impressive. From her, that was practically effusive praise. After they left, Mia wrapped her arms around me. How are you feeling? Exhausted, I admitted, but also lighter somehow. Like I've finally set down a weight I've been carrying for years. You stood your ground beautifully, she said. I'm so proud of you. That night, as Mia slept beside me, I lay awake thinking about the events of the past few days. The painful rejection that had led to an unexpected reclaiming of my power and truth. The confrontation that had finally brought long-buried feelings and resentments into the open. The tentative beginning of what might become more authentic family relationships. It wasn't the Christmas I had expected, but perhaps it was the one I needed not just to heal old wounds, but to finally fully step into the life I had worked so hard to build. The 5 days after Christmas unfolded with a strange new energy. The confrontation with my family had left me emotionally drained, but also curiously liberated, as if speaking my truth had released something long trapped inside me. Mia and I spent the days between Christmas and New Year's, exploring Boston like tourists, visiting museums, trying new restaurants, walking the snow-covered paths of the public garden. We talked about everything and nothing, making plans for the coming year, dreaming about possibilities. On the morning of the 5th day after Christmas, my phone rang. It was my father. Lucian, do you have time to talk? Sure, Dad. What's up? I was wondering if we could meet somewhere. Just the two of us. There are some things I'd like to say that are better said in person. I suggested a coffee shop halfway between Boston and Millfield, and he agreed readily. That afternoon, I found him already waiting at a corner table, 2 steaming mugs in front of him. I remembered you like your coffee black, he said as I sat down across from him. I do. Thanks. For a moment, we sat in awkward silence, both of us searching for the right words. Lucian, he finally began. I've been doing a lot of thinking since our conversation. About the kind of father I've been, the kind of father I should have been. I failed you in many ways, and I'm sorry for that. Dad. Please let me finish. This has been a long time coming. He took a deep breath. Your mother and I have different personalities. She's always been the strong one, the one with clear opinions and the will to enforce them. I went along because it was easier, because I trusted her judgment in many ways. But when it came to you, to your dreams and your path, I should have stood up for you. I knew you had extraordinary talent. I kept every drawing you ever gave me. This surprised me. You did. He nodded. There's a box in my home office bottom drawer. Every sketch, every design, from the time you were old enough to hold a pencil. I looked at them sometimes when your mother wasn't around, and I felt so proud. But I never told you that, never defended you when she dismissed your choices. That's on me, and I can't change it. But I can try to do better now if you'll let me. I'd like that, I said, genuinely moved by his words. I've also been thinking about your mother, he continued. Her reaction to your success, to the Spencer's interest in your work. It shook her. She built her entire value system around certain beliefs about status and success, and seeing those beliefs challenged has been difficult for her. She's not ready to apologize yet, you know how she is. But she's questioning things she's never questioned before. That's significant for her. And Rebecca %. She's been quiet, reflective. She broke things off completely with James. said there was too much complicated history there, but I think the whole experience has made her reconsider what she really wants from life. She mentioned possibly looking into graphic design courses. We talked for nearly 2 hours more openly than we ever had before. About his life, my work, Mia, the past, and possible futures. When we finally parted, he hugged me again, and this time it felt natural, not forced. "I'm proud of you, son," he said. "Not just of what you've accomplished, but of who you are. I should have said that years ago." Later that day, I received a surprising LinkedIn message from James Spencer. "Lucian, I owe you an apology for how I treated you during that summer at my family's estate. I was an entitled, arrogant teenager who didn't understand the value of hard work or treating people with respect. Seeing your success and the life you've built from that starting point has been humbling and inspiring. While the situation with Rebecca is complicated for other reasons, I want you to know that I deeply admire what you've accomplished. If you're open to it, I'd like to grab coffee sometime and make proper amends." I showed the message to Mia as we prepared dinner that evening. "Are you going to meet with him?" she asked. "I think so," I replied. "Not for Rebecca's sake, but for my own. There's something powerful about closing those old loops, about transforming past hurts into something more constructive." She smiled, chopping vegetables with practiced ease. "That's what I love about you. You're always looking for the path to healing, not to revenge." The next day, I met with Thomas Richards to discuss the potential project from Eleanor Spencer. He was thrilled with the connection, and even more excited about the design concepts I had begun sketching. "This is exactly why I've been pushing for you to move toward partnership, Lucian," he said, examining my preliminary drawings. "You have a unique vision and the connections to bring it to life. Eleanor Spencer is a significant patron of the arts in Boston. This could open many doors for the firm." "Thank you for your confidence in me," I replied. "It means a lot, especially given how my path to architecture wasn't exactly conventional." Thomas looked up from the drawings. "The best architects rarely follow conventional paths. It's the unique perspective that makes the work meaningful." On New Year's Eve, Mia and I hosted another small gathering of friends. As midnight approached, I found myself reflecting on the extraordinary week that had passed. How a painful rejection had ultimately led to greater authenticity in all my relationships. How standing in my truth had freed me from the exhausting pursuit of approval I could never earn. When the clock struck 12, surrounded by genuine friends and the woman I loved, I dropped to one knee and pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. "Mia Rodriguez, you've seen me at my best and my worst. You've supported me through one of the most challenging periods of my life, and you've celebrated my successes as if they were your own. I can't imagine a future without you in it. Will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears as she pulled me to my feet. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." Our friends erupted in cheers, and congratulations, the perfect beginning to a new year and a new chapter. In the months that followed, many things changed. My relationship with my family evolved, not perfect, but more honest and respectful than before. My father and I began having regular lunches. Rebecca enrolled in a graphic design program and discovered a passion and talent she hadn't known she possessed. Even my mother made small efforts, asking questions about my current projects, accepting Mia with cautious politeness. The Community Arts Center for the Spencer family became one of my signature projects, and Eleanor became a valued mentor and friend. James and I did meet for that coffee, and while we would never be close, there was a certain closure in acknowledging the past and moving beyond it. 1 year later, Mia and I hosted Christmas at our new home, a loft we had renovated together, blending her artistic eye with my architectural knowledge. My father came bringing thoughtful gifts and genuine warmth. Rebecca arrived with excitement about her new job at a design firm. Even my mother attended, still somewhat reserved, but making a visible effort to engage. We were also surrounded by our chosen family, Marcus Alyssa, David Jen, Sophia, and others who had supported us through thick and thin. The contrast between this warm, authentic gathering and the Christmas I had been excluded from the year before could not have been more profound. As I looked around at the blended family, we had created some bound by blood, others by choice, all by love and respect. I realized the greatest gift I had given myself was the courage to be authentically who I am, to build a life based on my values rather than others' expectations. The painful rejection had been paradoxically the catalyst for my final step into full self-acceptance and the boundary setting that made healthier relationships possible. Family, I had learned, isn't about obligation or appearance. It's about respect, support, and the freedom to be your true self. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to stand firmly in our truth even when it's uncomfortable, because only in that authenticity can we build connections that truly nourish our souls. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against family expectations? How did you handle it, and did it lead to positive change in your relationships? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And don't forget to share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to be authentically themselves even when it's difficult. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the family we build is just as important as the family we're born into.